Hello, I'm Damien from Meeples Broad, and today we are looking at how to play Bunny Kingdom. Okay, so the setup for Bunny Kingdom is super easy. Take out the player board and lay one of these buildings with one turret onto each of the city tiles that looks like that. Give each player some bunnies in their colour. I'm going to be playing with yellow today. And put a little starting piece on the 0 for your score marker. Okay, right, let's assume we're playing a 3-player game. We're going to start by dealing each player 12 cards each. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. If this was a 4-player game, we'd be using 10 cards each, and there's a special 2-player variant I'll talk through shortly. Okay, what we're going to do is look at the cards, and we're going to choose to take 2 of them and put them to one side, before passing on the remaining 10 cards to the player to the left. Then on your next turn you'll be choosing from 10, you'll take 2 cards, pass on the 8, and we keep going through like that until there have been 6 goes and you've gotten rid of all the cards. Okay, let's have a look at what these cards are going to be then. This is the new world, and what we are trying to do is colonise it with our bunnies. To do this, we are going to be building fiefs. These are areas of land with connected bunnies. So for example, if I can occupy this square and this square, I have a fief of size 2. If I can then add perhaps this one and this one, it's now size 4, but diagonals don't count. So if I was to have these 2 down here, I've actually got 2 separate fiefs, one of size 4 and one of size 2. As we go through the game, we're going to be collecting some cards which will allow us to add our bunnies onto these fiefs. So, what we've got here is a deck of about 200 cards, which correspond a lot of the time to various grid references. So if we were to collect these particular cards on our go, what we'd be able to do is put one of our bunnies down on these spaces. So right now, for example, if I had chosen the card G8 from my deck of 12, I would find the cell G8, which is over here, and I'll place my bunny there. Now I might specifically target this area because I note that quite close to me are some buildings. We have some castles with one turret on it, and they will be useful for scoring later on. Okay, and I was quite lucky because my other card was G9, which is right next door, which allows me to place another bunny right here. So I'm already developing a fief of size 2. Let's take a look at what some of the other cards might have been. So we're going to have lots of Parchment Cards in the game. Parchment Cards are missions which are going to score us extra points right at the end of the game. If I had chosen to take one of those on my turn, I would instead play it face down, and it will stick with me until the very end of the game. Now, there are some other types of card as well which we might be drawing. For example, buildings. So we might have buildings which will be of different value. We might have buildings of value 1, which is actually the same building we've already got laid down on the board, buildings of size 2 and buildings of size 3. Now, if you were to take one of these cards, you actually lay this down in front of you, and we will put the appropriate size one on the card. So we won't play that straight onto the board. Similarly, if we were to take a card such as this, which is a farm, which is going to produce some goods, we'll play this down in front of us. Maybe we took the wood, which is a basic good, and we've got pearls, which is a luxury good. And that allows us to take the relevant piece down here. So I'm going to take 1 for my pearls and 1 for my wood. And I'll place it on here. So after my first turn, I've taken 2 cards. I've obviously taken a lot more. I've had many goes at this point. And we cycle around until all of those 12 cards have been exhausted. This is almost the end of round 1. What we need to do first, though, is use any of these extra goods that we have acquired during the first round. And I can place these onto any of the tiles which I already occupy. So let's imagine that during the first round I've also taken these cells over here. So I've got a few which are locked in. Right, I'm going to place these down now. So I have a castle of size 3. Now, this can actually only be played in particular areas on the board, and what this tells me is that I have to be playing this somewhere in the mountains. Now, if I just look to my player board, I do not actually have any mountain spaces, so I wouldn't be able to play this right away. but that's fine. That can stay with me until the end of round 2. If, however, I had a castle which was of size 2, I would be able to add this somewhere to the board because there are no restrictions on where I can put it. So I might choose to place that anywhere where I've already got a rabbit. So I'm going to place that right here. I also had my goods, so I had a wood to produce somewhere on my land and pearls. Now, there are some restrictions to where I can place these. Any square is only allowed to have 1 building, so that includes your castles and your farms. So I couldn't, for example, place this here, but I could place it right here because there's nothing already on this tile. Similarly, for my pearls, I wouldn't be able to place it down here because there's already a building. I couldn't place it here because I've already placed a building. So maybe I'm going to place it right here. There's one final type of card I just want to show you at this point in the game, and that is these camp cards. So if you draw a camp card, you will also play it in front of you at the time when you take it, and it doesn't activate until the end of the round. At that same point, take yourself a camp token. So at the end of the round, when we go into the building phase, that's adding all of our buildings. For example, I've just added my pearls, my wood, and my castles. I can use a camp token. What a camp token does is it allows me to take over any unoccupied cell on the board. So looking down here, I'm trying to develop take over my space down here. So maybe I will take this space there. Now, the reason I'm going to take this one rather than this one is because this space is giving me wood as well, and that's going to be very useful when it comes to the scoring. So I will lay down my camp token and also occupy it with a yellow bunny. Now, before I did that, I should have actually checked, did any other of my opponents have a camp card? Because I've got a camp card with a little number 1 here, and someone else had a camp card with a number 5. Now, it's whoever has the lowest ranking camp card gets to choose their tile first, and this is just in case 2 people want to occupy that same cell. Now, it's actually a little bit risky though, is using camp cards, because it could be that later on in the game, somebody gets F9. That F9 is still somewhere in this deck. If that happens, that individual who takes that F9 will be able to kick me out of my cell, which could be very problematic if that is where I'm developing my fief. Okay, now we come on to the scoring. So we're at the end of round 1, and we've laid down all of our buildings. What we are trying to do is collect these golden carrots, and golden carrots are computed by multiplying together the number of turrets you have, so the size of your fief, multiplied by the wealth. And the wealth is the number of resources that your fief is producing. So if I have a look here, I've actually got a fairly reasonable sized fief here for the first round of the game, a very small fief here, which has got no buildings and it's got no wealth. I've got an okay fief going on down here, and something very small here. Let's have a look how much each one is scoring. Well, this fief has got no buildings. This one next to me isn't owned by me. It's producing 1, so I'm getting 0 times by 1, which is 0. So I score nothing for that at this point in the game. Looking over here, I've got 2 turrets, so it's a size 2, and I'm producing 2 resources. Now careful here, because it looks like I'm producing 3 resources, but actually we can only count the fish once, so I'm producing fish and wood. So my 2 resources times my 2 turrets is 4. So I'm scoring 4 points for this fief, and I'm going to move my score on 1, 2, 3, 4. Coming down here, I've got no turrets and no food, so no wealth, so I'm getting nothing here. And on this one here, I have 1 turret, and I have pearls, and I have wood. So I'm actually only scoring 2 for this one. 2 times by 1. So I'm getting another 2. So just to be clear, it's not the number of bunnies that you have even very close to each other that is the scoring. It's all about the number of different types of resource and the number of turrets in each of those fives. Now there's a very handy player aid here which will show you how to score these. So we've got the number of goods, that's your wealth, and the number of turrets, that's your strength. Multiply them together in order to get your score per fife. And as the game goes on, each of your fives are going to be getting bigger and bigger. Perhaps they might even merge, so two of your smaller fives merge with your together to make one big five. There's one other card I just want to show you in the game, which is called the Sky Tower, which can be a very useful card for growing your fives. Because what a Sky Tower does is essentially lets you build upwards to join two fives together. If you draw this card, you can take the Sky Tower, there are actually two different types of Sky Tower in the game, and you can choose to place them just like any other building tile. So it can't go on a square which is already occupied by castles or by resources, but perhaps I'll put one here and I might put the other one here. What this does is it connects my two fives together so that they are a single five. So this could dramatically increase the size of the five itself, give me lots of points. Okay, so the game's played over 4 rounds. At the end of each round, we score the value of our fives, and then comes just that very final scoring where we consider any of the parchment cards we had, and these can be a real game changer. For example, we might have the carpenter who scores a golden carrot for each wood that you produce. So we look throughout the entire board, see any cell which is producing wood, and get an extra golden carrot for that. Or we might have the King of Thieves who scores 12 gold if we control at least 9 cities. So each one of these is a city, anything with turrets. So there are a lot of points to be had at the end of the game, and you might strategically collect those which are going to give you the most. And just to come back to that 2-player variant that I mentioned at the start, if you're playing with just 2 players, each player starts with a deck of 10 to choose from and a deck of 10 to draw from. At the start of their turn, they will choose one card from their reserve. They will then choose one card to keep for their turn before discarding a card, probably choosing one that their opponent is going to want to make use of. They then pass them on and the play continues as normal. And that's it, that's Bunny Kingdom, a super fun game with a super fun theme that anyone can pick up in not too much time at all. We've been Meeples Abroad. If you've enjoyed this video or found it helpful, do subscribe to our YouTube channel and check us out on Instagram. Bye bye!